and you know, who more qualified to be a playmaker than Road if he does get his hands on that champion. SKT, decent amount of respect given over there. I'm curious what you guys think the ban strategy will be at, well, you may not get a chance to speak because we're going through them very quickly.
It's pretty apparent what the ban strategy is going to be. I actually think that this is quite smart, not only taking away a champion like Alistar from Road, but there's a lot of question marks. You know, what does Road's champion pool look like if he's not given those playmaking supports? If you happen to funnel him on a Karma, on a Nami, he hasn't shown it in the regular season, and they could exploit that weakness. That said, the Bard is still open and available, and that is a big comfort pick for him.
And he's done some real-life trundling recently, so Trundle's also been a pick for him as well.
Interesting way to phrase that, Papasmithy. What a bold and broadcast positive way to phrase the issues going on externally. But of course, if you have any questions, preferably not about external issues, preferably about League of Legends, you can tweet them at LO Esports with the hashtag AskTheCasters. Have them answer in game. LPL expert, Korea expert, EU caster, I don't know what I am.
Don't pick yourself up too much.
Excuse me, when Albus Nox got out of their group, I actually became an IWC caster. That's not what it says on my resume.
Oh, interesting to know. Of course, though, keeping our focus on the mid lane bans as we focus back in on the game at hand. We've got the Aurelion Sol to Vladimir, the Syndra, and the Ryze. Interesting to see so much priority placed around the mid lane, and SKT, interestingly enough, first picking the Caitlyn.
And this is what's cool is kind of the transformation of SKT, and as well as the Rox Tigers to move towards the Caitlyn pick to recognize its power on the international stage and start prioritizing that lane dominance through Caitlyn as opposed to the Ezreal or the Lucian picks that we saw a lot in Korea.
I mean, Rox came into this week basically first rotation in Kate Alistar whenever it was up. A lane they never played in the entire season. Alistar fell away as a pick in general, and Caitlyn wasn't much of an LCK pick, so as you say, priority's gone up. And speaking of priority going up, so many mid lane bans. Cassio blind, barring perhaps an Ori pick and maybe even Faker back on the Karma, Cassio, the priority's way up with 4 mid lane bans.
And this is kind of the thing that I highlight as a true strength of Korea is their ability to prep, their ability to adapt and to pivot, which is why they continue to be such a dominant region, you know, outside all of their other like macro strengths and things like that. Whereas on the other side, you almost have the polar opposite in AME. They are continuously playing like 6.15 power picks like the Echo in the top lane and not adapting to the world's meta pretty much at all.
Okay, but AmazingJ also plays Nautilus, so how much of that is AmazingJ versus the team of IMA as a whole?
I'm just saying, if he's only picking, you know, Echo, Gnar, and we'll probably see a Nautilus depending on how far I may make it, because it is a signature pick for AmazingJ, it is a concern that they're not adapting.
I mean, IMA, just like their captain, just like AmazingJ, march to the beat of their own drum. They love picks like Nautilus, picks that work for their team but might not necessarily be in meta.
Maybe picks like
Kha'Zix of the season. Now, Olaf, of course, gets the love for the Kha'Zix pick, but...
Yes, calm down. It is actually a pretty big pick in the LPL. You guys may not have seen it as much
globally.
Though. For Worlds, yes. But the LPL, this is... I'm not going to call it a stock standard pick, but it is played quite a bit. Clearlove, like you said, being the primary starter there. But no surprises to see an LPL team look back towards that Kha'Zix. And there's, more importantly, Rhodes Bard.
Froskurinn reminding us all not to be surprised, but I'm surprised. And Inori is sad that he isn't here. He was asking for Kha'Zix every single champ select that he was on broadcast. So now finally seeing it out, brought alongside Rhodes, Bard, and SKT seem to be taking a lot of time on this final rotation.
But this is the thing about IMA's composition, and this is why Kha'Zix is such a big pick in the LPL, because we love monster objectives. We love Baron fights. We love trying to siege that. You have Kha'Zix and you have Cassiopeia on the same team. They can burn a Baron so quickly if those champions are left alone due to the isolation, as well as Cassiopeia's constant sustained refresh on cooldowns.
And you just look at the lineup that's being drafted here. We're going to see likely going to be very pushing lanes on the side of SKT. Jayce going to push his opponent to the turret more often than not. Varus has fast shove. Caitlyn will be overextended. All these lanes are actually very gankable if overextended for a Kha'Zix, because when you're clearing a wave so fast, you're likely to be in isolation, and therefore Kha'Zix gets a good start. Going to be very powerful against a poke comp in general.
And we see two very vulnerable comps coming in here. Olaf, of course, can be considered a tank, but he's never going to provide that peel. We have Jayce. We have triple AD present on the side of SKT. Is the triple AD going to be a factor here for IMA? Is it going to be just ridiculously easy for them to build resistances into this?
It depends on the last pick, because you look at the first 4 champions, none of them are getting tanky. Maybe a Rylai's for the Cassiopeia. Everyone else is going to be pretty squishy, and you know what's one way to break up
I knew
a
it.
poke comp? A Nautilus top would do it. Now, Nautilus against Jayce, you're going to take a lot of free damage, but he's going to lock in the Nautilus for team composition, not for lane. He's going to be harassed heavily. But consider the lanes that Kha'Zix has to gank. If you get that Cosmic Binding, if you get some of the suite of Nautilus CC, the Kha'Zix will do the rest of the work. So Avoidless, amazingly on support in his first game of the day, is now on jungle and could potentially snowball this game away from SKT.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, bust out the Dodo Sin, because AmazingJ are bringing the LPL to the LCK, and this is the quintessential Korea versus China matchup with the quintessential Chinese picks. The Kha'Zix that Froskurinn says this is an LPL pick. Well, this is not an LPL pick, the Nautilus top, but it is certainly an AmazingJ pick. And it looks like when it comes down to it, AmazingJ are drafting purely for comfort here against a very heavyweight opposition in SKT.
I mean, that totally makes sense if you're looking across from, you know, what a lot of people are projecting to be the tournament favorites alongside the Rocks Tigers. Just pick for comfort, try to hang in there, stay alive. It was AmazingJ on his Nautilus pick that got AmazingJ to this position at Worlds in that Game 5 across from Team WE, so he has a lot of respect and a lot of confidence on that champion.
It's not necessarily a comp that SKT is known for. They're not necessarily the poke comp specialists. They're more about the late game team fighting rather than hitting timings early, specifically with their jungle woes. It's very risky to go for those timings based, so it's something different from SKT. They're in a very comfortable position. They think that they're through, even though mathematically they're not yet, and it's AmazingJ with a lot of comfort, so that's why it's going to be really intriguing.
And it's good that you bring that up, because of course if SKT do win here, they are qualified, and I believe they are confirmed as first seed coming out of this group. However, if they lose here, we have a potential for a 4-way tiebreaker. Of course, everything else has to go right for that to happen as well, but now we're on to the Rift. Gonna have to see how this one plays out.
Okay, refocusing again, this is a Fog of War stream from AmazingJ's perspective. The last time we saw them face across from SKT, things got very dark very quickly. So what's kind of cool, since it is a Fog of War stream, although it's unfortunate that we can't watch it from SKT's perspective, is that they do have that poke composition. And how important vision is when you're trying to set up correct objectives, especially with poke, is very cool to watch. But we'll see how oppressive it could get if this game snowballs out of AmazingJ's favor. Because just imagine 101 projectiles flying out of the Fog of War at your face.
And I had the pleasure of casting a game from Samsung's perspective yesterday. It was a great VOD if you have a chance to go back and watch, just because seeing something from the Korean perspective, because we haven't had these Fog of War streams at previous tournaments, was really illuminating. They've always been lauded as information, logical play, and that was on display from Samsung. AmazingJ are literally known for, in some degrees, randomness, over-aggression, crazy playmaking. Let's see how much of that craziness is founded in vision and how much of that is just heat-of-the-moment decision-making.
And Papasmithy, I really want to get your opinion on this, because it's always been my opinion, you know, when examining the Korean teams, of asking that question, you know, why is Korea so dominant? And for me, it's kind of what you're alluding to, this idea that they are the most punishing region about playing around vision, and they are the best region at gathering that vision. I mean, you think about Dandy, often held as like the Korean standard for jungling, and he's a very vision control, information gathering style of jungler.
I mean, it's a very nuanced question. You know, we have some time to answer, I guess, as things will be just quiet in the early game. The big point to make is that you think about what happened when Dandy and Mata, the Vision duo, went over to China. The literal information you got out of interviews was, or the fact that it was honestly a demonstrable point. You looked at the games, all the wards were there, the map was lit up, but no one was using the information. So it's the communication side, I think, that is kind of the unfair advantage that Korea has. It's lauded for its infrastructure, its name players, etc. When you have 5 players serious about the game, playing at the highest level with literally no communication ceiling, because you all speak the same language, you're just set up to succeed. And from there, they've been smart and innovative, so they have the research. But the ceiling of LCK teams in general has been higher because they don't have really any variables, barring their own level of practice, to hold them back.
And then on the other side, while we're speaking of language, again, I have to bring it up, the fact that AmazingJ are a 3-language team. They have 2 different dialects, Chinese Mandarin as well as Chinese Cantonese between Avoidless and their top laner. And then, of course, you have Road and Athena, the Korean members. But hold on, Blank caught out.
Ooh, Blank with the fancy footwork, though, sidesteps the binding as well as the deadly flourish there. So he will make it to safety, however, a very precarious position.
They didn't actually have, SKT didn't actually seem to push up appropriately to go for a buff steal. You steal away blue from Kha'Zix, who obviously slow him down immeasurably. In a world with Hunter's Potion, you can get through the jungle at level 3, but otherwise, really want to keep up that blue, so SKT not quite dotting all their I's and crossing all their T's.
And this is actually one of those things where you see good communication coming out of AME. The fact that Road immediately pulled over to Avoidless, that they have a ward in the river so they can try to catch when Blank tries to make a steal like that. And then even furthering that, Avoidless walking into the river. Of course he wants to go for the Scuttle Crab. It's one of the few camps that he can get that isolation damage off, so he clears it very quickly, and picking up more vision control for the bottom side.
Interesting too, you can see AmazingJ is really suffering on the top side of the map. Of course, Nautilus not really going to have a strong early matchup against that Jayce, but I want to talk a little bit about the decision making from Road. That was the question. Ooh, nice steal coming out from the darkness there with the Graggy Ice. But Road, level 6 on this Bard, it feels like we will get some really solid insight into how he wants to dictate these fights because he has all the tools to do so.
It used to be in the LPL, and this is by no means an exaggeration, that if Road didn't hit his bindings or his ultimate, that it would completely diffuse the situation or any aggression from AME. Even if they had multiple sources on their composition to engage fights, it was like he was that important that he was the only one who could dictate the go button. AME certainly started to climb, develop, get better at a team when they start giving more responsibility to someone like AmazingJ, like Athena, and like Avoidless to start those fights, which is why I actually think that the Nautilus pick is really big for AME. They only do one thing, and they understand that, and that's to press go, and that's to fight you. But it's better when they allow other people to do that for them, other than, you know, Road makes one bad play and suddenly they lose all of their momentum for the next 2 minutes.
And look, there's only so much initiation you can do from the support position. You don't have non-committal initiation very much from support. So Bard is one of those champions that can make plays, but short of Bard, there isn't really that much from support. The jungle meta, there's some flashy initiators, likely Sin, but again, we haven't necessarily Sin strong initiators. It's been more about the pick CC for Elise and things like that, Lee Sin, like I mentioned. But the good thing about Nautilus, which I'll get to in a second, is Athena.
Cleanse comes out, flash traded there from Blank, and solid early gank coming in, and really Faker just taking control of the lane.
Nautilus, like Malphite, kind of defies language barriers because the moment he ults someone, you know exactly what the team is expected to do.
Binary.
So it doesn't matter how many languages is across your team. Nautilus ults someone, it's pretty clear that it's go time.
Absolutely, of course. Now you can see Athena may have to play a little bit more, or a little bit safer in the mid lane, and similarly, Road has already left the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, but Road's not using this time to back. They're going to try to go in on Faker. Here's Wolf.
Coming in, Blank moving in on the backside. Ghost goes down. Athena is out of mana, but the stun does connect. Wolf wants to get this one for himself, and Blank will take the first blood with the axe.
So here's the concern. The reason why AME are trying to make this roam on mid lane is because they thought that Wolf had back. They see that Caitlyn and Karma weren't in lane, although Caitlyn's showing bottom now, and so they assumed that they had used that space to try to make a back and pick up their vision. Although, as I say that, another fight.
Minion waves come in,
hungry for blood. Arrow goes over the side, does take a big chunk out of Avoidless. Minions there to back up as well.
That information flow, though, Froskurinn, you just look at the map. We have complete information. We know that AME knew nothing of what was happening in bot because Caitlyn's pushing in. The Karma backs away. Is she backing? Is she roaming? Is she just putting down a ward? Is she camping a brush for a mantra Q? None of that information was there. They committed 3 members. Faker was smart to re-enter the fight because he saw his Karma coming in, and those small communication advantages. Is that everything about that play? No, but one of the reasons they get extra auto attacks in SKT is because the communication is just clearer than the enemies.
And you can see now with full vision as we rewatch this play how it affects things. Wolf and Blank were there the entire time. And honestly, it just makes sense that SKT are able to get the first blood.
And there's just so much more vision from SKT. They had so much more information about what was happening in that play to set it up.
I mean, Avoidless entered the fight with 1 member dead, full health, full mana, precisely contributed nothing to that particular skirmish. It's only not on full health now, but time to back away.
Hunter's Potion is going to go for a little bit more of a clear here as they move forward. Now, of course, I want to get some of these Twitter questions in. Lucas Castillo.
Good.
Yeah, tried. What's Olaf's role inside this poke composition? What does Olaf need to be doing?
So Olaf, to me, the big story I've seen about Olaf, says Road, looks like he'll get out, is that he functions similar to a champion like Nidalee. Nidalee's banned away here. Olaf's strength is in getting in the enemy jungler's face with backup and actually being that battle ward, being able to put down aggressive vision because 1v1, especially after 6, first axe hits, there's no real counterplay to the Ragnarok, you die. So honestly, his pressure is in the early game to kind of help SKT push all their lanes, and then because they have pushing matchups, get in there, hold back the enemy jungler, accelerate the mid-game spike where they're going to be able to set up around turrets, and basically try and get the game over before it's late game and this poke comp kind of falls away. Because in the late game team fights, Olaf his role is kind of going to be pretty much zero-sum. He's going to run in and die, hopefully slowly if he has a lot of tank items.
But I actually think it's really important for those 5v5 simply because he's across from a Cassiopeia as well as a Jhin. You have two very immobile sources of damage there in AP and AD carries, and the Cassiopeia ultimate will mean nothing for the Olaf, as well as Jhin has to be stationary when laying down his damage. So I feel like simply the pressure of just running in, yeah, he can get bursted out if Cassie lands that that
But he doesn't
on
even
him.
have sort of a friend. No one else is going to be within 500 units of him in a late game team fight.
All he needs to do is run.
Interesting, too, as well, as Avoidless ends up taking the blue buff away from Athena, so it's some pretty bad news, and it's curious to see what Blank is going to be able to do. You saw him looking to throw the cheeky axe over, looking to take that blue away, but in the end, Cassio's not going to get it either way. Cleanse comes out, Axe will now connect, a poor sidestep coming in, and Athena now set to fall. Snake versus Axeman. Looks like it's going in favor of the Axe, and now Avoidless also in trouble. Faker moving forward, but not going to grab anything.
And again, they're not spotted out by any of Aime's vision. You can see that they've got two wards sitting down into that bottom river, but they're not catching Blank coming out of the red ramp.
But just following on from my point, because Olaf is important early, these kills so important. A gold lead for SKT is absolutely massive for them around 15 to 20 minutes once a first item is completed, the TS starts to stack. And try and snowball into an Infernal Drake.
Avoidless, he wants to kill Blank. I don't know if he's going to get it. Not going to happen. Ooh, Dragon with the assist. One shot, one kill. Good old Papa Drake.
Yeah, the Infernal Drake. Bit of burn there.
And there's that kind of communication error that we've seen in Aime. The fact that Road, you know, a more together team would have probably timed that better, that the Bard is there so you don't have to sacrifice the Kha'Zix. You can see the correct idea from Aime, but the problem is in the execution. As we take another look at that play, Road is on his way, but Avoidless is already going in before his support is there to help him out.
Luckily, he has support elsewhere in the form of an Infernal Dragon, but definitely a questionable play overall, however, does still net the kill.
You just have to speculate, though. I kind of agree with Froskurinn side. You could say, is it overeager? No, that was the exact time to initiate, but Road's not there, and Road's on a champion that has the most direct route to anything with the ability to use that magical journey. So communication is kind of the Occam's razor for why Road was not in position when he needed to be.
And you see this all the time with Aime, especially Avoidless seems to kind of get more critiqued than other members because he does have to go in. And speaking of going in,
onto Duke. They're trying to get the kill down. Now Blank is left alone, looking maybe to 2v1 here. A lot of damage down on AmazingJ. Challenging Smite. Will he be able to bust this out? Kha'Zix versus Olaf, but they're in the creep wave. He's not going to get the isolated Q. He will get it in the end. 2v1 in favor of Aime.
flashes into the bush trying to drop aggro.
But this is exactly the person you want on the side of Aime, picking up gold. 2-1-1. Now from the Kha'Zix, he's going to try and return basically to the top lane wherever possible as Jinjao flashes out.
Like
crucially, Bang didn't have mana for the ultimate there.
Yeah, I was wondering if he was flashing out, just trying to deny that last little bit of vision so Caitlyn could not click on him, but it looks like mana is going to be what saves the day, although that play almost perfect all-in coming in from SKT. Now, we see the Jhin clear out the wave here. I want to get a question coming in from Garrett Davis. If you believe the enemy team to be better than you, what adaptations, if any, do you make in your play?
I think the general power of a team is something that you can kind of acknowledge before the game starts. So in-game play, I think you play to your draft, but before the game starts, it's much more about what drafting style do you take against a team. You have to be able to look at a team like SKT, work out their weaknesses and strength, and kind of tailor both your picks and box them into a style that you're comfortable playing against. You can do that with strategic bans, obviously. They've put SKT on a comp they're not well known for. Is Road is often known to be in brushes that he probably shouldn't be.
Surprise from Road, trying to bait Bang in. Avoidless is waiting in the wings. What?
It's the vision trap. This is exactly what I was talking about. They do this all the time. They just sit in bushes and they wait for you to come by. Again, it's the correct idea, or it's a very clever idea by placing a ward further down the lane so you can see who's walking up into it, but just slightly misexecuted because Avoidless wasn't there in time.
Of course, you do see pings coming in from SKT on the Baron and a ward dropping as well. Avoidless and Road pulling it out. Not quite sure if they want to drop it yet. Kha'Zix should have the potential to go in. TP coming in here. Athena is on the side.
Jinjao is completely locked out of this fight right now.
Ooh, ult comes in. Wolf goes over the wall. Nice empowered shock blast coming in from Duke to take that one. And SKT just get donated an Infernal Drake.
And again, look at Jinjao's positioning right there. Caitlyn and Karma got the inside track running up into the river. Jhin could not contribute to the fight at all. He pretty much had his ultimate to wave, but that was about it.
Oh, Blank now getting cheeky on the side, but it looks like SKT simply outmaneuvering I guess, out decision making Aime there. Maybe a little bit of a greedy attempt, and sad days for Avoidless here.
And the thing you have to kind of comment on is the fact that of anyone who's trying to leave lane in the top lane, it's going to be Nautilus, who is the team fighter, who is the initiator, who
and
has
he's
the
trying to
CC.
leave lane now. Road ult doesn't connect, but already AmazingJ is committed, looking maybe to get the engage onto Faker. Faker, where's he going? He has the flash. Looks like he flashes over the wall.
Yeah, that seemed to be the way he went. Of course, we don't have the full information, but you can guess from those flashes. Those are definitely also the flashes that show up in YouTube clips where they flash horizontally.
Be interesting to see, of course. Avoidless now moving in for a little bit more jungle information. And now Aime setting up once again for an aggressive play here, looking to use the magical journey.
And here we go.
Ult goes in.
Here comes Avoidless.
Road maybe looking to get a little bit more with the Kha'Zix on the way and looking to donate the kill. Duke getting some hits back, but it's a pretty clean dive. No, Avoidless will make it out in the end. The movement speed steroid from the assault, too much.
So there is something good about this dive. It's actually a side of the map that I may have information to make a dive like that. Again, you check down into SKT's blue side. They do have, I'm not going to call it a triangle vision, I'm going to call it a little squiggly line. But they have their squiggly line vision, so it was a bit of a safer dive, although they do sacrifice their tower pressure because of it.
I mean, probably the most striking thing for me is that they have no defensive pinks on the map and one aggressive pink. I think pink ward usage is one of the biggest differentiators between the best teams in the world, and only one on the map. There's not a lot of safe places to play around. We can see now in this replay that there was a pink for Duke, but on Magical Journeys in the conversation, pink ward only gets you so much.
Really good chain CC, however, coming out of Aime. Duke did his best there, almost was able to trade 1-for-1. That would have been best case scenario when you're getting dove by 3 people, but beautifully orchestrated between AmazingJ and Road to set up for Avoidless's burst damage when he got involved.
Of course, we do have another question coming in from Twitter from Ezreal, interesting enough. What is this Nautilus top and Ka jungle? That feels like an appropriate question given that Ezreal would hate to play against these characters.
Take the wheel, Froskurinn.
Okay, so welcome to the LPL. If you are new, these are champions that are, I'm not going to say quite common across the scene, but definitely for these players. Kha'Zix isn't foreign to the LPL. Clearlove was the big proponent of pulling him out. Again, the LPL teams love monster objectives. They love to burn those objectives. And so when you look at a composition like Cassiopeia, like Kha'Zix, if you ever leave Aime alone on a Baron for an extended amount of time, the isolation damage and Cassie's burn shred will destroy it in a matter of seconds. The Nautilus pick is just an AmazingJ specialty.
Of course, used to be a meta pick, but after a couple of nerfs to Nautilus, everyone else, barring AmazingJ, kept it up. So 5 games from AmazingJ. We also saw the stats 7 and 4, so 11 games of Kha'Zix in LPL. Started off by Clearlove. LCK, for example, had 1 Kha'Zix game, so very much a regional preference for China.
And interestingly enough, Avoidless currently holding the highest damage share on his team at 34%. So definitely putting in some work in these early fights. Now looking to do it aggressive on blank.
Ooh.
I'm not going to connect. Maybe looking for more Road. Road. No, up.
What?
Is going to make it out. Heal over the wall. SKT maybe going to commit for more here, but the arrow tags Avoidless, and he is so low. Flash is still up and available, however, but Faker from over the wall is going to connect that one.
Damage has been done, however. They have full control over the top side turret, and it will fall, and now they have a wave crashing on inside turret.
But the Fog of War also told the story. These members of SKT were all coming out of the darkness. There were no advanced walls, no ward put over the red buff to spot out people coming in. And was it just the 2? That's when the Bard ultimate came out. They could only see Karma and Olaf. Olaf was ulted, so I guess it was an ult just for Karma. And after that, the rest of the team rotates. Smart rotation from SKT. And Aime, again, we talk about their chaos, but they need to level up their warding, because for now, heavily outwarded, and now SKT just being a little bit tricky trying to play around the Baron.
You make the statement that it was only for Karma, that Bard ultimate. I agree that that should have been, but I'm pretty sure he tried to throw that at an ulted Olaf.
Oh, AmazingJ wants to start the fight, though. Avoidless takes a lot of poke on the side, but he's going to pop blank, and he's ready to get a reset, but no wings yet. Only level 9. Now Bang, not quite so scared, but keep your eyes on the curtain call, and it does go wide.
So unfortunately, we can't see SKT's vision line while we're in Fog of War for Aime. I'm actually going to ask the spectator if maybe we can quickly adjust that. We'll see if he responds. Oh, thank you, spectator. So if you actually look at SKT's vision line, they have very little, actually they have 2 wards set up in the red set. I'm trying to check what their vision is to try to attempt that Rift Herald. So if they could see Aime coming in, because obviously they thought it was safe enough to attempt, but they do have their triangle vision set up, so they saw Aime funnel in and they just thought they could burn it quick enough.
Yeah, I think that's enough.
Turn it back off, please. We don't want to break the rules of the stream. Thank you.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. Of course, interesting though, as you mentioned, I mean, kind of caught a little bit unguarded in terms of vision control, not having quite as much as we expected from them.
That's not caught unguarded because of their vision control. This is actually them just making a poor decision because they had all the information available. They just thought that they could get away with it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a disrespectful start from SKT. They don't have a comp that can actually take the fight, even with the health bar and AmazingJ being low, because the initiation is guaranteed from Nautilus. The ult will hit someone. There is no counterplay around that. So, in general, SKT trying to push their advantage a little bit too much when they're in this much of a lead. And with their current map pressure, again, still so much about this game from AME's side is guesswork because they don't have the vision to make controlled play.
I mean, that said, if you're gonna stretch your legs against a team, it's probably a pretty safe bet in this group to do so against AME. You know, playing a poke composition, not something that they're entirely well known for. Trying to make a little bit more aggressive, maybe a higher risk, higher rewards type of calls.
And it's kind of one of the most fun things about SKT as an org, and Faker especially, is that he likes to put the doubt in the mind. For example, when he hadn't played a Zilean game all season, it was only a fly special from KT Rolster. Last game of the season, already guaranteed this spot. Play Zilean, look decent doing it, and force enemy teams to think, the Zilean was pretty good. Is he going to play it again? He played it recently. And even if you don't seriously intend it to be played in the best of 5 stage we're getting to just next week, suddenly Varus is a champion that's in the conversation for Faker rather than just his standards. And if Varus gets banned and Ryze comes through, then they're going to be a happy team.
One more factor in the draft to consider in a 1-0-2 scoreline, building towards that Muramana. Now at this point, adding the Mountain Drake as well as the Infernal Drake. Unfortunate draw for AME in this one because both those dragons are incredibly powerful. However, the good news is if Avoidless can make it out, that he's on his way to level 11 and will have the wings shortly to get resets in the coming fights.
The nice thing though is that a lot of these builds are more so penetration builds as opposed to flat AD builds, so it could be worse on a different composition for an Infernal Drake, but still gonna punish quite a bit.
Yeah, I just, in this world where flat AD and penetration come in the form of such a stat inclusive item like Youmuu's Ghostblade.
I was gonna say, it's almost like there's a build that's like
you're
really...
getting everything. As
Road does get the setup, and AmazingJ looks for the follow-up. Here comes the ultimate, does manage to tag 3, curtain call coming in. Wolf not going to fall because they turn their attention over. That's another kill moving in. AME taking control. Avoidless baiting back. Faker trying to get a shot in. Avoidless does get the sidestep. A lot of damage from Jayce. Are they going to be able to turn this one? Faker charging up the arrow, does not get interrupted in the end. Athena goes in, Faker gets taken down, and once again, SKT overstep.
And that's just SKT not layering their poke before going into a team fight. And so, again, the question was, what is Nautilus in this comp? Well, it's the thing that they really needed, which was the hard engage against a poke comp. If you think about kind of the trinity of compositions, hard engage, if you can execute it, should be able to shut this down.
And hard engage is only valuable if you're not poked. If you're at half health or below here, then you've waited too long, but I may go for the exact right time. Olaf is nowhere, he's busy clearing a ward near the Baron. Faker zones himself to the right side, just dealing with roads, so squishy members getting burned down. Great initiation timing from AME that makes Faker basically an onlooker. Sure, he looks for a snipe, wants to get an exit kill, but the fight to some degree was already stifled at this point, and AmazingJ will only get better and better as a solo frontline taker. Remember, he double scales on health with his W. He will become unkillable or near there if he's allowed to stack Randuin's HP and armor. So SKT, they have the right Drakes, they have the right item timings, they have the gold lead, but mess up a couple more times like that in the late game, and maybe we'll see AmazingJ, and specifically this Nautilus, take over a game like it did in the final game that got AME to Worlds.
So here's my question for you, Papasmithy. SKT, and it kind of feels like the Korean teams in general, at least at Worlds, have been skirting around this issue of actually running a full tank. It seems like if they don't have an Alistar on their team, like you think the composition that we just saw from the Korean team, the Jayce, Lee Sin comp to counter the Kennen, do you think that there's the trend of not, or an advantage of not running a tank on your composition? Because they pretty much have Olaf, who I'm still going to put just as a bruiser, as opposed to that big tanky front line.
I mean, the issue becomes, where is the tank coming from? Because the top lane meta is literally a cavalcade of offensive choices. Kennen, Rumble, Jayce, they're kind of the gold standards in the top lane. You can consider other things, but it feels like tank champions just get punished too hard, lose their turret to champions like this. And then the jungle, Lee Sin, I guess you could say, is a tank, but he's more of a bruiser like Olaf. In general, it feels like the meta pool of most powerful laning picks. And remember, laning decides everything. This is a snowball meta, standard lanes. You need to go for strong laners. Strong laners that are tanks are at a premium. They have been in the history of League of Legends, and there really aren't many available right now.
And I feel like it's that ecosystem, that setup, that has also kind of led to the re-emergence of a pick like Alistar, especially on the Worlds meta, simply because, you know, Gragas was nerfed, Rek'Sai was nerfed, so Gragas eliminated from the meta, Rek'Sai much more rare. The fact that you have all of these bruisers and these fighters running around the top side of the map, that it becomes that much more important to look towards your tank, your Braum, your Alistar in that bottom lane, even though lane dominance is still so important.
And when Alistar fell out the first time, it's like, well, it doesn't feel as tanky on a budget, you know, as he was with his ultimate before. But now no one's tanky, so Alistar actually puts him in the upper echelon of picks that can be a tanky frontliner. And I think if you can hit the nail on the head, he doesn't have the laning phase. It's still a risk to run the Alistar, but when it works, it's just a different pick in a meta that's dominated by the Jayces and the poke champions of the meta.
It's literally my favorite thing about League of Legends is the ecosystem. Like, everyone loves looking at all the buffs of the champions, but I actually just love the ninja nerfs. Just because someone got stronger, it automatically influences everyone around them.
And of course, we see with Gragas out of the pool how much more becomes viable, how much more becomes
Victor.
open and available. Victor, as you mentioned, a surprise pick that we did not expect from anyone but Crown is now being picked up by everyone.
Hey,
their hands on
Kuro's
it.
here too, 23 and 4 lifetime. He's got the Victor too.
I'm of the opposition. I actually saw when, or I thought when Gragas got nerfed that we would actually see a lot more Victor, a lot more Rise. I'm glad that they're starting to finally pick up in the Worlds meta. I suspect that we'll see them moving into quarters, moving into semis more, simply because you don't have the threat of that cask to punish immobile mages, especially if Syndra is hitting the ban list every single time.
And we saw from Maple, of course, in the previous game exactly what you can do if you ever get a lead on that champion, and the answer is pretty much delete everyone. So we'll see if that starts to rise up more as a priority. It was banned out this game, and now focusing back in. Aime's vision control, unfortunately, still a little lackluster. They do get just enough vision down on the Baron to see that SKT have control, but are not able to do much else.
And there's that softening language that you're using again, Tsepha. You know, just losing slight control, maybe a little bit lackluster. No, they are completely dark on the map. They've had to move their vision very defensive. You can see 3 defensive pink wards protecting them. And why this is so punishing is exactly what's happening on your screen right now. Jinjao and Athena have to be in the same lane, splitting resources and splitting gold, simply because it's too unsafe to move out to their side lanes. And anytime you're splitting resources between your AD and your AP carry, the longer SKT keep those two grouped up, the stronger that they get.
And a warding totem from Nautilus is so key in this game. It sounds like just a small thing. Why am I even talking about it? But Nautilus is the only person on this team that can just basically face check whatever he wants and not die instantly. It takes so long to kill that having a super tank, which is so rare in this meta, lets them get the face check wards down that even a Bard with Magical Journey will not be able to with a high damage from the side of SKT. So, AmazingJ, laning phase went decently. It's down 35 CS, but that's what you're expecting in a matchup like this. His turret took a while to go down, and he does have a role in the late game. He got rolled in the early game versus WE in that 3rd place match and came up with a big teleport, and who's to say he won't do that here as well?
Interesting to see, of course, keeping our eyes on Twitter. Joshua Staten asks, why would SKT choose this Varus mid when there's no real magic damage on the rest of the team?
I mean, the champion pool you have to consider was very limited in this game. 4 mid lane bans, Cassiopeia taken away. Faker can definitely play Orianna. It's actually his most played champion of all time, but hasn't been played in a very long time. So why not just not play the Orianna in a group stage situation where you're almost certainly get out of groups and keep it for the future? Because Ori is the only real strong lane into Cassio that wasn't considered in the terms of the picks and bans of this game.
And ultimately, when you take a step back and look at that composition, Varus just fits in it a little bit better than the Orianna. It is a very true poke composition. Again, not going to make a bold statement and say that SKT are disrespecting Aime, but again, if you're going to stretch your legs, if you're going to flex a little bit, you know, not try something new, Aime would certainly be the team to do it, especially for how strong SKT came out in Game 1 against them.
I mean, you say not disrespecting Aime. I would say looking past Aime is a possibility just because SKT have always been a strategic-minded team. Back in the day when they were SK Telecom T1 2 or SK Telecom T1 K, in a best of 5, they would often lose the first game by giving the most powerful comp over to the enemy. And if they beat it, they knew that they would have the emotional and mindset advantage to get ahead. And a lot of today, to me, for SKT is, let's just keep playing poke comps, plug and play, whatever's banned out, and go from there. And then you come to quarters, and if your opponent's thinking, all right, SKT's going to play a poke comp, going to prepare for that, SKT can definitely play mid to late game team fighting, as many years shows.
Now, I'm curious to see, we talked a lot about tanks dropping out of popularity. Poppy and Nautilus feel like the only ones that we've really seen, and Nautilus, of course, so far exclusive to AmazingJ. Do you feel like they felt comfortable going triple AD because of the lack of tanks?
I firstly want to point out that I think that Poppy's resurgence in the meta has more to do with the fact that Lee Sin has been so dominant, and, you know, answering is kind of that soft counter just because of how her W's interacting with him.
Keep our eyes here, however, because Faker does have to flash to safety, but it looks like that will be the disengage. And as you mentioned earlier, Froskurinn, if the Bard ult doesn't hit, I do not want to go in whatsoever.
But they still have initiation tools on AmazingJ with his depth charge. You can see him shining that icon.
But it's so hard to reliably get it off because they don't have a lane ward to actually see how many members are still in mid and where they're kiting towards. Obviously, ulting Bang is almost always going to be the right call, but for now, Bang coming back, and Avoidless, if he jumps up into the backline, will die instantly.
A lot of raw damage there, and no real efficient itemization for this Kha'Zix to mitigate what is coming out from the side of SKT.
But Aime cannot afford to just sit here and be fish in a barrel for all of the poke from SKT. We do see that with AmazingJ getting more bold and kind of calling SKT's bluff by pushing forward, that it forces them to reevaluate, because SKT and Aime, they both know that the only option Aime have right there is to engage.
That window, though, armor penetration's just a last whisper in the Black Cleaver from Duke. No armor penetration from either Faker or Bang. Means that for now, the damage trade is kind of gated towards Duke starting a fight.
I have to talk about this ward since it is a Fog of War stream, because finally someone has played it. I feel like every Fog of War stream I'm casting, they always forget to drop this. In the mid lane, spectator, please just zoom in on this baby. Just get right that ward.
A lane ward, never.
Oh, man, that is so important. The reason why it's so important, I harp on this all the time, is it's a high traffic area. As soon as that tower falls, you have to think, why do you push creeps forward? It's not always just to get the pressure point. You're doing it because with creeps comes passive vision, which means passive information. That lane ward not only gives you a great teleport spot if they get into a sticky situation where they need AmazingJ to flank, but it's also a high traffic area so they can see what SKT are doing even when the waves are shoved into them. It is so important. Always look to place that ward.
And it's why the mid lane turret has always been held to this gold standard. Get down the mid lane turret, swap it for 2 hours, whatever. You got the mid lane just because every bit of information flows through mid. It gives you equal access to information about whether you can do a Drake or whether you can do a Baron. So at this point, putting down a ward for a couple of minutes gives you effective vision to having a minion wave pushing in that area. So I completely take your point, Froskurinn.
And
as much information as possible as Aime and SKT are in a bit of a standstill.
And between the Baron and the Dragon, it looks like the Baron is the center of attention at this point. Froskurinn, as you mentioned earlier, the Cassio, the Kha'Zix, if ever left alone, can just clear this one out. And now Aime doing their best to place down a little bit of vision here, but SKT have complete control of the area and are just clearing it out as it gets placed.
And that's the key phrase there, complete control of the area for SKT. Again, it's a poke composition. If they ever have their vision laid down and if you're funneling into a dragon pit or into a baron pit, we said fish in a barrel when they were sieging on the mid lane. Same thing holds true if they prep their vision correctly over these monster objectives. Poke compositions are so brutal there, and so it becomes much more important for Aime to get flanking vision or hidden wards. So they have the teleport option to break up an oppressive vision line from SKT.
Well, AmazingJ has decided that armor is the way as Athena.
Ooh, Athena.
Good flash.
Cleanse flash out. Still.
Cleanse flash down on Athena means that the Cassiopeia will have to play super reactively.
Very punishing on Cassie.
Road is on the backside. He is all alone. Any other champion, he may have fallen down, but Bard just going to take them on a magical journey. Stun. He's going to connect on the wall. Not sure where the vision is, not sure where he's going to go. Road looking set to fall, snared over the wall.
Okay, what
now
Aime...
Faker on the way. Oh, ult goes in.
What Aime should be doing right now is they should be running towards the Baron pit. Oh my god, he's going to get out. And they should be moving into this area while SKT are busy playing Circus with Road and clearing out the vision.
Oh, trying to get the auto on the way in, is going to get it in the end. Did you shush me?
Yes.
I mean, the circus music stops for a bit, but what that did was that effectively that brought Aime time, like you're mentioning, Froskurinn, to put down vision around the map. Did they do that? From what we could see, perhaps not to the effect as they needed to, and this is definitely not the time to engage.
Nope, having to back off there. Miasma going to make sure that there can't be anything more aggressive coming in for SKT. Blank holds the trigger on that Ragnarok, doesn't want to burn it there, and knows that he's relatively safe. Moving up to the top side, Avoidless appears to be getting a decent amount of these resources.
But which of the resources are safe apart from the minions that are pushing into the inner turrets? With this lack of vision, obviously able to see, as we can see, that Mountain Drake is going down. But it feels like even Kha'Zix's jungle camps on the top red side, given how much time SKT has been dipping in and out, are kind of risky to take. And the damage comes on a pretty low budget, and this is actually a fairly tanky build from Avoidless. He literally only has Black Cleaver and Warrior Enchant for offensive items.
And like you're saying, Papasmithy, because the camps, it's almost dangerous to try to take any camp. Like, they are so far pushed under and kind of suffocated on their side of the map. You can see that in the CS discrepancies. Like, there's a reason why baeme is 330 to 248. He's about to flame Horizon Jinjao, and it's simply because Jinjao has no safe place to farm. And that's kind of the unspoken oppression when you lose control of your vision like that.
And they had, you know, basically concentrated all their vision on the top red side, which is why Duke gets to free push down the inner turret on the bot side, because no one had entered the blue side, and even though they had a lot of SKT in vision, the unknown and the slow rotation from AMA trying to stop the bleed in the top side spills over into bottom, and this is what pressure looks like. This is pressure League of Legends. Only SKT, and especially in their previous game today, where they ran that full poke comp with no frontline at all and managed to put it together, have really been able to pull it off. Because if you lose to a team fighting comp, if, let's say, there's a 4-for-1 trade for AMA, suddenly they put down pink wards around chokes. AmazingJ stands in a choke, and the poke comp can't go face check apart from Olaf, who I guess can be trade his Ghost and his Ragnarok to put down wards. They're cleared, and kind of there's no other option for the poke comp. You cannot afford to fall ahead, and that's why you have to have so much trust in your communication and team play to play comps like SKT is trying to play today.
A little bit of poke going down as they approach the river. Baron appears to be the center of both teams' attention, but while AMA are doing their best to get what vision they can, Duke is already split pushing, and they're getting a run around the map by SKT.
And that's kind of the problem, is SKT can still exploit the lane assignments against AMA. Again, you're across from a Nautilus. He shouldn't have kill pressure on Jayce at this point. If things get really hairy for Duke, he should be able to just walk away. But ultimately, there's going to be a point where if SKT kind of get bored of this stance, or they think that they can exploit something else, they can do it through the lane assignment of Duke versus AmazingJ.
And Flash Force have played comps similar to SKT, but been too safe. They've basically been like, let's only ever play around complete information, take no risks, and that does open up one single team fight with 60-second Dragon, 60-second death timers deciding. Road gets out really low, but SKT can just turn into AmazingJ.
Jay
Oh,
looking to turn. Pop goes the Nautilus. 4 shots coming in, but Blank is already on the front line. Road does not have the Bard ultimate available and is making his way out.
And this is disaster for AMA right now. Not only did they just lose straight up a 5v5 or a 4v5 to start just because Road got chunked out before the team fight even started, but more importantly, they burned the teleport summoner on AmazingJ.
And it felt like AmazingJ hadn't updated his eyes on the enemy items. We spoke a bit ago about how only Last Whisper was there for Jayce.
He's in.
Oh,
He's
gets it!
Whoa.
That's the steal that you want from AMA. In goes the Kha'Zix. Down he goes in the end, but Baron drops for him too.
I didn't even think there was a chance of that, but the steal changes the game. Poking against Baron buff is super hard. Question marks about Blank, and I may have at least bought themselves 3 minutes of relative peace after 36 minutes of oppression.
Well, while we wait for that piece, we have a few questions coming in for Twitter. This one, I think we got the answer to in this replay, but we'll talk about this before we hit that question.
Okay,
Super chunked out, right? He's almost dead. He's out of the fight. And this is where the item's being updated. Double Lord Dominic's Regard was bought on the last back. AmazingJ's like, I remember being tanky. Sorry, mate, that time's over. Dies instantly. That's why SKT, with one chunked out and the only frontliner dead, think that it's Baron time, but Avoidless, he had one chance, one opportunity, about 500 health behind it, and got the steal. It was completely blind.
And Avoidless does a great job getting the steal, but also Avoidless has a really important responsibility right now in this team composition because he's the only damage that can kind of reach SKT's composition. You have the long-range ultimate from Jinjao, but it's so important that if AmazingJ is running headfirst into someone, you have to have that Kha'Zix flank come out and just delete Bang. Otherwise, AmazingJ died for nothing.
I mean, he literally leapt with no vision at any point and stole the Baron. That's clutch and also worrying for the side of SKT.
Interesting, though, as we go back to that Twitter question, or have to wait, I may please, the people need to have these answers.
Welcome to the LPL.
Yeah, Duke getting engaged on Snare, not going to connect. Ult in from AmazingJ, but he's not tanky, he's not safe. But luckily his team is there to back him up. And suddenly, the 1v1 against the Olaf not going quite so well. We've just got skirmishes across the board.
I think I may have forgotten that this Baron is supposed to be a defensive Baron because they're trying to use it aggressively and getting punished a little bit. But I do agree with Papasmithy. I feel like this Baron is more about kind of that pause and trying to scale Cassiopeia as well as Jinjao into their late game form rather than Aime trying to siege here or find picks, as they were almost punished quite heavily there.
I mean, they should have taken the free objective, which would have been trying to take out the mid lane turret, get the vision we kind of prize. If you get to the point where the enemy's always pushing into your inner turret, which is what the Siege comp always wants to be acting on, getting access to the lane ward that we praised them for earlier is impossible because you need to be in position to pick up the scraps when your inner turret goes down, when the initiation or the chain of corruption comes from Faker. So Aime doesn't go for the percentage play, they kind of go for the crazy one, which worked for Avoidless, but for this Baron buff, we don't quite on the screen have the power play, but it's going to be more of a minor league power play.
Not quite what they want, but as we watch SKT start to burn down these tier 2s, we can finally talk to Twitter. Well, maybe not. Maybe.
No, it's fine. Just talk to... Oh God. Oh God.
Not going to talk to Twitter yet. Blank. Gets locked up. Ragnarok is available. AmazingJ jumps
Bang.
in on the bang. That's a good engage. Avoidless not able to find his way into the back line. Is level 16. Have everything upgraded, but the ultimate. Athena suddenly in trouble. The fight continues. The ult not going to do anything. Piltover Peacemaker fails to connect. Aime just taking an absurd amount of poke with that engage and losing their primary tank. And I'm going to hit this Twitter question because we're not going to have time anymore. How can SKT kill Nautilus if no one can run into him and finish the job that the poke has done? P.S. Notice me, Froskurinn San, says Kyokuro. And unfortunately, my friend, that's already been answered because they can definitely kill AmazingJ.
The items being updated, double Lord Dominic's regard when there was no armored penetration at the time. And we're getting to that 4-5 item Caitlyn territory, and this is when she really hits high gear. And Bang has always been known for his late game team fight positioning, and he managed to pull it out there. Still was doing damage, even though got chunked down to about 30% health right at the start.
So the most important thing for Aime to do right now is we're actually going to take a look at this replay.
We'll look at it. You can talk about what they need to do because I think we saw this one. I think we know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, okay. So what they need to do is the Elder Drake is up right now, and the bottom side of the map is very dark for Aime. They need to run to that location and kind of Hail Mary grab their vision.
And the story of this fight, though, was that Bang got chunked out, flashed, and 450 units of flash put him way out of the range of anyone else from Aime. Only Jhin has any semblance of range on the side of Aime. Cassiopeia especially is very short range, so his safety after flashing was basically as much as possible. As there's Baron power plays and
little less than the minor leagues you described
little
initially.
League power play then, okay.
Little league power play. Interesting way to describe it.
I can just imagine our stats guy in the back just like snickering to himself. Oh, wait till they see this.
Because the power play includes the 1,500 gold you get from taking the Baron, right? So
yep.
I think they
Yes,
lost
it
3,000 gold.
I'm on to you, Tom.
This is Bobney today, actually. Shout out to Bobney, our stats guy.
Thank you, Bobney.
Oh.
I'm still on to you.
Did you presume our stats guy?
I'm an attack helicopter.
Tower now set to fall. Of course, interesting, Avoidless had flash in the last fight and didn't opt to use it, I guess. Not convinced that he could kill Bang if it came down to it. A little bit more poke coming out from SKT, and it's business as usual. I want to get another Twitter question, but first, before we go to the next one, did you notice Kuriko? He asked to notice you.
Yes.
Kuriko, you were noticed. I can't see color. That's not a name, that's a condition. At Mick Snugglebottom says, what's a champion you're surprised to not see more of at Worlds?
I was really surprised that it took so long for Ryze to come out. I understand everything that Syndra is bringing in and why that's kind of a scary matchup, but I thought it took way too long before Ryze really showcased his true power. That said, there's kind of still more question marks. You know, what does the ultimate Ryze ultimate look like? How do you perfect playing that champion right now? And I'm really excited to see Faker pick him up moving forward in this tournament.
In terms of amount of play, Tom Kench was looking like a first pick, first ban, and actually took a long time to warm up. Now seeing a medium level of play as SKT have this
getting
down
lower.
to 3,000.
Keep your eyes on Avoidless. Keep him on. He's not going to get it in the end. Blank's going to get it. That is the perfect
huge
setup.
cosmic
Here
find.
comes the ult going forward. Tempered Fate going to connect. Avoidless once more, but the snare's going to hit him, and he gets popped. But still, there are members moving forward. Athena is left alive. Still healthy, but there's so much raw damage coming in. Athena's doing his best. Jinjao going to hit the snare, but at the end of the day, SKT are too strong. Flash forward from Faker. Auto connects. Jinjao sentenced to death, but is going to make it out in the end. Will it be enough? Cannon form coming in. Duke maybe looking to connect the shot here, is going to get it. He's ticking down.
burn.
It's going to be enough.
Wow.
Shut down onto Jinjao, and SKT clean house.
I guess that's what 4 stacks of burn looks like from that Elder Drake buff. Takes him down.
This is actually fairly important what Road's doing. They are going to lose the inhibitor anyway, but what he's trying to do is he knows it's too dangerous to get back to his own base, so he's just trying to get as many waves pushing against SKT as possible so they don't have a creep wave behind them to push more objectives. And this is what we talk about. I think I got to talk about this during the H2K versus EDG game. When SKT prepped that objective to take the Elder Drake, every single wave was actually pushing against them. So if they had lost that fight, it would have been disastrous because AmazingJ could have immediately walked from that fight and taken anything that they wanted on the map because the creep waves would already be in position for them. So that was actually a really high risk, kind of medium reward play for SKT because they didn't need the Elder Drake to continue to win the game.
And the Tempered Fate here is just amazing from Road. Wait for it's channeled now. Consider that they get 4 members. I've never seen a 4-man Tempered Fate, but this is what you want. You think, okay, gonna have just that extra split second for AmazingJ to choose target, go in, and to their credit, they kill Bang. Person who's been so slippery at the start of the fight, but the re-engage with Wolf and the speed that SKT have is so important, and unfortunately Jinjao left to the wolves. The tanky front line was DPS down even as Bang was dying, and SKT probably just too far ahead.
And of course, Kha'Zix without enough resources to pick up a QSS there, so not able to stop the chains of corruption from chaining to him, getting interrupted. Blank says, oh, if you're going to stand still, I'll just shoot you in the face, takes him out, and that just interrupts one of the major damage sources on the side of AmazingJ from actually being able to do anything.
It'll sound weird, but I feel like actually going 1 damage type against Kha'Zix has hurt him a lot, because if you're against magic and physical damage, you can build Guardian Angel, feel good about the components you're sitting on, and then be able to build a lot of damage early and take that into GA. But having to build Randuins has kind of meant that Kha'Zix really doesn't do that much damage, really isn't that tanky.
So to kind of break down the language that Papasmithy is talking about, GA is one of the few items in the game that does both armor and MR. It's fairly cost inefficient when its passive is not up, so it's kind of like you said, kind of bang for your buck in terms of defensive items for Kha'Zix versus the Randuins.
I mean, his role is to do damage. Tankiness is kind of a second concern, but feels like he's not really doing either in SKT. And second time with a difficult to execute comp, and looking like a second victory.
13K gold lead, triple AD, no tank, no problem. One potential final fight here from AmazingJ, but they do not have the tools to win, and Duke is going for some highlight reel plays. Even interrupts the ult coming in from Caitlyn. Athena wants something. He's not even going to get the kill onto Faker. Nothing is being given back to AmazingJ, and they are now knocked down by SKT as they secure themselves first place in this group.
And this is the really concerning thing. If you're any team looking across from SKT, they've now shown a multiple threat of tools that they have at their disposal in their compositions. The fact that they can now successfully play a pressure poke composition as opposed to just the team fighting, which has really ruled the world stage here.
But you know what the amusing thing is? It's looking very much like we're going to have 3 Korean teams at first seed. So a lot of teams are going to be expecting a Korean team to come through. And you're like, okay, which one would I prefer to play against? Well, the Samsung I saw yesterday was playing at a different level to any Samsung I've seen, and it's with CoreJJ with a new identity, much less predictability about how they play. SK Telecom look like perhaps the best team at the tournament, even pivoting styles. You kind of want to play the Rocks Tigers, and the moment you're choosing the Rocks Tigers as a quarterfinal opponent, you know you're in a bad spot.
What's also really interesting in that conversation are kind of the level of opponents that all 3 of the Korean seeds have faced. I don't think it's disputable that Samsung had the hardest group or the hardest number of strong opponents versus SKT. I mean, even if you consider Cloud9 and Flash Wolf strong opponents, you're still also then facing across from AmazingJ, and Splice really picked it up on the back half of their week. So even though Samsung looked phenomenal and performing kind of better in terms of their macro play versus SKT or Rocks Tigers, they also did it in the hardest group.
Of course, as well, CoreJJ did come from NA. We can hold on to that, NA fans. That's hopefully not all we've got, though, because we've got more Cloud9 games coming up today. And while SKT has locked in the first seed for this group, second seed is still up for contention. So it's going to be interesting to see how this develops moving forward, who is going to come out as the second seed. I feel like if AmazingJ had won here, they would have been not a sure bet, but definitely looking really strong to move forward. And now it feels kind of like an all-out brawl to see who's going to be able to close out this group.
And look, it was fun to see the AmazingJ perspective. That's what we were focusing on this game. The pressure lanes made it very hard for them to get division, and maybe they missed out and say some lane wars when we would have liked them. But if you have a lot of pressure in enemy lanes and a pressure jungler, it's very hard to turn around a game. You're kind of waiting for SKT to slip up, get 4 kills, and then try and snowball that into Vision. The grand collapse never happened from SKT. They kind of kept it the same level of pressure up, and eventually it was baeme that faltered, and SKT 2-0 on the day.
And unfortunately, that was kind of the story across the game. You're using the soft language that Froskurinn was critical of me for. baeme didn't place wards, even when they were doing okay, even when things weren't so grim. But of course, the second SKT got that lead, it did feel like there were no options left. Now, of course, a miracle steal for Avoidless did buy them a bit of time, but consistently, it wasn't just one mistake from baeme. They were consistently getting caught out by SKT, and SKT proved that playing a patient game is the solution to taking down baeme.
Fundamentally, they just play League of Legends at a subpar level. They play it in this idea that we can only win or we can only take objectives through winning team fights, and if you're setting up for a team fight as opposed to setting up for an objective. So the difference is if you set up for an objective, you either take the objective or you win the team fight and take the objective. If you're setting up for a team fight, that's all you get.
I might massage the language from subpar to suboptimal, but can't really disagree with you. baeme, they're happy to be here. They've had some close games, but a gulf between them and a team like SKT.
Definitely. Still very much happy to see them at the World Stage. They very much earned their spot, and they have put up some good victories. We'll have to see how they perform as we move forward in the day. But coming up, Pulse, MarkZ, and Zig will be here to focus on the top lane showdown between Impact and AmazingJ. Maybe more Nautilus. For now, let's toss over to the mainstream for an interview with SKT's baeme.
SK T1 팀이 3연패를